Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I'm your host, Joe Zollo. Week 3 of our fantasy football team previews. A look inside. We have the Titans, Falcons, and Bears. One would say maybe the first real, it starts getting juicy with some potential guys that we are actually going to talk about that will have true fantasy impact, at least after last week where we had absolutely maybe one person that could have fantasy impact from the Patriots, Chargers, and Giants. We now jump to the Titans, Falcons, and what looks to be the rejuvenated Chicago Bears. We have Eric Moody joining us. Let's get into it. Welcome into No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. I'm your host, Joe Zollo. As always, Josh, Ryan, hello, gentlemen. And for the first time, the not forgotten, even though he thinks we forget about him, Mr. Eric Moody. How are you, my friend?
No, I think things are going well. You know, the summer heat is here in Dallas, Texas, although we have gotten some crazy weather over the past couple of weeks. Makes you feel like you're in tornado season or something, but no crazy damage. Things are well. NBA Finals are here. The Mavericks are in the NBA Finals. That's why I'm all decked out in blue, gentlemen. We're going to get that other championship coming up. We're going to make it happen. So
I'm rooting for the Mavericks mostly because this guy over here is a Boston dude, and I hate the Celtics too. So
listen.
Look at see, it's almost like I planned this meeting.
Listen, am I worried? Maybe.
I say Celtics beat my Cavs, so go Mavs.
There we go.
The Cavs beat themselves. Let's be honest.
Every year.
Yeah, they beat themselves every single year. This week, Tennessee, Atlanta, Chicago. First, some NFL news before we dive into it. Some pretty solid extensions for some guys. Starting with Jalen Waddle, 3 years, $84 million. He gets the extension there. Justin Jefferson, congratulations on breaking the receiver market until CeeDee Lamb does it, hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks. 4 years, $140 million for Justin Jefferson. CeeDee Lamb to shortly follow, because if you think Justin Jefferson's is good, look at CeeDee Lamb's stats, and they are literally identical. So he'll be getting a bag as well.
True.
Christian McCaffrey, $19 million a year on a 2-year extension. That's pretty good.
I love that happened 2 hours after someone pointed out that 25 wide receivers were making more money than Christian McCaffrey, and then the 49ers were like, no.
Not
No,
anymore.
now there's only 20 wide receivers making more money than Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah. Hey, neither of them are Debo or Brandon Ayuk, correct? So there you go.
Debo is.
Always Debo.
Debo makes over $20 million a year. Yeah.
Dang. Well, that sucks. He's going to get traded. So the Browns extend Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski for however many more years of mediocrity. So that's huge. They already fucked up with the Deshaun Watson contract. So why not just add 2 more bad ones into the mix, right? Why not just add a couple more?
Hey, I think Berry and Stefanski are doing a fine job. They did not pull the trigger on Deshaun Watson, and I think they deserve their bag. It's just now they have to suffer through the Deshaun Watson contract. It's almost like they are forcing them.
Yeah. Here's your punishment for being just okay. Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Tough. All right. Well, there's your news and notes there. We start in Nashville, Tennessee. Again, a team where you say they were really 6-11. Yes, they were. They were 6-11 last year. They have a new head coach, Brian Callahan. He's the former offensive coordinator of the Bengals. New offensive coordinator, Nick Holtz, or Holtz, not exactly sure how you say it. Callahan will call the plays. It is derived from the Cincinnati system. So Nick looks to be just the pretty little guy that Brian's going to have next to him.
What they're supposed to do.
Yep, just going to sit there. Will Levis, quarterback 1. There is no Ryan Tannehill to take it from him, even if that wouldn't happen anyway. But Will Levis, currently being drafted as quarterback 24. This is the underdog ADP as of today, June 5th. Tony Pollard is the RB1A, and Tyjae Spears is the RB1B, according to Josh, who input this depth chart here. But they are very close in ADP, 29 and 34 respectively, Pollard getting that 29 spot. Talk about 1A, 1B again. Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, 36 and 42 respectively for them. Steep drop to Tyler Boyd at wide receiver 86. And the quote, He needs to be a weapon on special teams or he won't see the field. Treylon Burks, wide receiver 4. That is a direct quote from Brian Callahan. Wide receiver 106. That is lower than every New York Giants receiver we talked about last week. That's how rough it is for Treylon Burks today. And Chikazimo Okonkwo, tight end 25. We got 3 players we want to highlight and talk about. We'll start in the backfield because we have highlighted both of these running backs, and I would like to know both sides here. Now, they're being drafted as flex guys in traditional fantasy football leagues. 2 running backs, 2 receivers, in a flex position in your traditional leagues. So, technically free, right? Technically free when you're looking at these guys here. Moody, I'll have you start with Tyjae Spears. A lot of hype around him last year coming in as this could be Henry's last year, and it ended up being. So there's a lot of like, ooh, this could be a good time for Tyjae Spears, but then Tony Pollard comes in and maybe ruins a little bit of that hype. Do you like Spears? Do you not like that Pollard's there? What's your vibe on him right now in the early June?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about Spears right now. What I found in the drafts that I've participated in is that typically Pollard is going first, and then Spears is available. And if you look at projections, we use Mike Clay's projections at ESPN. I'm like, they're projected for an eerily similar number of touches. And it's different going into this season where you're not competing with Derrick Henry and you're competing with Tony Pollard, who's coming off of an off season in Dallas. And you look at Spears last year, he had the 9th most targets among running backs, more than 800 total yards, a really impressive rookie season. And he really acted as a safety valve for Will Levis last year. And I think that's very encouraging going into 2024. So a lot of targets, a lot of touches available there. I do like Spears as like a mid-range RB2 and flex option, but I think it's upside for much more. So if you were to ask me, hey, Moody, who do you prefer, Spears or Pollard? I'm going to go with Spears due to the more upside, I would say.
Josh, I'll flip it to you on the Pollard side. I know you were not a fan of Pollard last year. You and I were on that train of we do not like Tony Pollard. Is it flipped because his ADP is no longer inside of the top 10? Or are you still like RB29 is still really why are we even drafting him here? He should be lower. Spears should be ahead.
No, I definitely think Pollard's more of a value this year than last year. I mean, RB29, you're telling me that I can get a starting running back as my RB3? Like, yeah. I will take that any day of the week. Yeah, I understand the concerns. I mean, he had a heavier workload last year, kind of tailed off a little bit. Obviously didn't start strong, but we all know he was coming off of the injury, the devastating ankle injury. Well, and I think that's really where you want to look at this, right? The second half of the season, the final 8 games of the year, he was on pace for over a full season, 233 fantasy points. And that would have put him at RB11. Guess who had 233 fantasy points last year? James Cook. So if you're telling me James Cook is worth the RB13 spot this year, why are we taking Tony Pollard almost 17 spots after him in RB rankings? They're basically the same guy. Now, I understand you have very different offenses. You have Josh Allen at quarterback. You have Will Levis at quarterback. They are very different. You have competition with Tyjae Spears. But Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard are essentially the same running back. There's not a difference when you really look at what their skill sets are. Yes, I do think that his ADP is kind of baked into that like competition where there's a good chance that the offense might be, running the hot hand. So there might be some games where Tony Pollard has 6 or 7 touches, and then some games where he might have 23 touches. But we've also seen that exact same thing with James Cook when Josh Allen goes through and runs for 3 rushing touchdowns. So to me, there's not that much of a difference to justify that big of a swing in ADP.
Yeah. No,
29 to 34 from those two. I mean, to me, they're both values. When you
I was just going to say
offense, yes. When you look at this offense and what we ultimately want to project them to be is kind of like a Cincinnati Bengals light. I'm all for it. I think both these guys are going to see 50 plus targets. I currently have Tony Pollard at about 61, so a little bit more than Tyjae Spears, and I have him at just over 200 carries. But this is going to be a two-headed monster. It's going to be Pollard, and it's going to be Spears. There's not going to be anything really left over for anybody else outside of Will Levis.
The only thing I was going to throw in with Scott Fishbowl scoring dropping today, Josh and I were just talking about this. Tyjae Spears returned kicks last year, and with these new kickoff return rules, if you play in a league where there is value, and there could be immense value if you were one of the lucky people who are in Scott Fishbowl, Tyjae Spears could actually do a lot of really nice work with these new kickoff rules.
That's going to be Treylon Burks. I don't know if you heard in the intro to the Tennessee Titans. That's going to be Treylon Burks.
Well, no, they meant tackling on kick returns.
Oh, tackling on. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
He was a gunner. Yeah, he was a gunner, Joe.
I mean,
my bad. Sorry.
He fought. What was it? Wild boars. I think.
Yeah. He caught hogs.
Yeah.
He can't catch footballs, but he caught hogs.
There you go. But no. So I Josh and Moody both hit the point that I was looking to make sure got said there was these guys are very similar, which makes them interchangeable. And so I don't know if one's going to have a heavy workload, but at their current ADP, you don't need them to have a heavy workload.
Exactly. I think that's the big thing. It's like just pick up whoever's available. Like we've been doing a lot of mock drafts, 100%. As I mentioned before the show, at ESPN Fantasy. And I think about the most recent mock draft that we had. I'm like, I was able to land like Tyjae Spears in like round 8 or round 9.
Perfect.
Like you gotta pull the trigger on Pollard or Spears at that stage of a draft. It's a no-brainer.
I think it's also a look in the mirror, because what we were saying going into last year is that Tony Pollard's never been the main guy, and he's better in a split backfield because he's more efficient with less touches. So why are we now going back on that when he's in a split backfield? He should be more efficient.
Exactly. I think the biggest thing, and I do want to give a shout out to one of our writers, Chris Molina, who just dropped on Monday his article about Tyjae Spears. And one of the biggest points was red zone usage, right? Tony Pollard was not very good in the red zone last year as the lead dog. Now, granted, he's the quote lead dog this year, ideally, but he's also in a split backfield. The biggest difference to me here is that they don't have that bigger back in theory that's going to come in and steal and lead the way in these red zone opportunities. You can lose me on the Hassan Haskins
dog
setup there, right? Yeah. But they bring in Bill Callahan from Cincinnati, who's arguably one of the best offensive line coaches, not just in the NFL today, but in NFL history. Joe Mixon has 29 rushing touchdowns over the last 3 years combined. So you're telling me that, 220 pounds of Joe Mixon, makes it a little easier to run inside the red zone. But we could be seeing a system that just generates red zone touchdowns. So I'm not like fully discounting Tony Pollard's ability to score in the red zone. He did have 5 red zone touchdowns in 2022 with Zeke as sort of the lead guy in the red zone. He had only 3 last year, or maybe that's flipped. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're going to see opportunities. And you also have a bigger quarterback in Will Levis as well. That wouldn't surprise me if he steals a few of those red zone touchdowns as well.
That's what I was thinking as well. He could easily have 2 or 3. Then you got a guy like Pollard for where it's not out of the realm of possibility that he finishes the season with like 6 or 7 rushing touchdowns. So I like it.
But even then, that can still very well end up as a low-end RB1 in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
So
over to the receivers. Ryan, you highlighted D-Hop.
Yeah.
Second, I guess not second year in the system, but second year with this quarterback.
Yep.
The only receiver in the second year with this quarterback that matters currently on this roster. Is that why you like him at 42?
Yeah, it's easy to point at DeAndre Hopkins at 32 years old and say he's going to get worse because he's getting older, and that's not necessarily untrue. But the ADP is again making him a value that far down. He is one of the few players that played very well with Will Levis last year. DeAndre Hopkins had that 3 touchdown game, but he also scored 4 touchdowns in the final 8 games, not even counting that 3 touchdown game. So DeAndre Hopkins can work with this. And obviously there's competition now with Calvin Ridley. When I was setting things up for my projections, one of the things that caught me really off guard, DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley, yards per catch rate, very similar players. So very similar to the running backs. They're dealing with 2 of the same kind of guy out there where it's just kind of chuck and hope it's down there. And obviously Calvin Ridley is younger than DeAndre Hopkins, but Calvin Ridley was also an old rookie. So he's not that much younger than DeAndre Hopkins. But with Will Levis's style of play, DeAndre Hopkins, specifically in best ball, is a perfect target. You have the ceiling of these 3 touchdown games. It's not going to happen often, but it's going to happen enough to make him a value down there in the 40s at wide receiver. He didn't take a big enough step back last year in what should have been a worse offense than what we're going to see this year.
Yeah.
It's not, yes, they lost Derrick Henry, but what they gained in Brian Callahan and Will Levis getting a second year of experience, I think there's a lot of room for this offense to be very good. And we've seen this scheme produce multiple good wide receivers. Now, Will Levis, not Joe Burrow. I don't think I need to explain that to anybody. But the scheme itself does lend itself to having two good wide receivers.
Yeah. So we're going to play our first Would You Rather. Moody's very familiar with it, but if you've never heard of it before, it was a thing invented on this show. We choose a player, and then we say, would you have this player or the other player? Never been done before. Invented it like 3-4 years ago on this show. They're so close in ADP, 36 and 42. So I'm going to split it, because I do think there are some discrepancies. Like, there are some guys higher that you probably wouldn't take D-Hop over. But Ridley's at 36. We're going to go 34 down to 38. I don't need an explanation. Let's just hear it. Moody, starting with you. Would you rather Jayden Reed or Calvin Ridley? Let's assume this is PPR redraft.
We're going Ridley or Hop here?
Ridley or Jayden Reed?
Okay.
Yes.
So,
Moody.
You know what? I would rather have Jayden Reed.
Ryan?
I'd rather have Jayden Reed than more than half of the guys going in the top 20. I'm a big Jayden Reed guy this year.
Yes.
Josh?
I'm going to say Jayden Reed, but it does scare me with just how much Green Bay spreads the football around, and a healthy Christian Watson is going to really impact Jayden Reed.
So
I'll say Jayden Reed.
So that one was the layup. In my opinion, that one was the layup. That one's pretty easy, Jayden Reed. Xavier Worthy or Calvin Ridley? Moody.
I'm going to go Calvin Ridley.
Ryan.
I'll take Patrick Mahomes as wide receiver. You know I will. Xavier
Obviously. Josh.
I will take Calvin Ridley as well.
I think most people would go with the veteran status there that aren't Chiefs diehards or Ryan Weisse. So I agree with that. Now you get into two vets. This is an interesting one. Calvin Ridley or Chris Godwin? Moody.
I'm still going to go with Calvin Ridley here.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin.
Of course you are. Josh.
I do have Ridley higher in my rankings. Not by much, but I'll stick with Ridley.
Okay, and last one. Ridley or Jordan Addison? Moody.
God, I'm going to have to go with Ridley here. It's tough, but Ridley.
Okay, Ryan.
You got me, Calvin Ridley.
Okay, Josh.
It's Calvin Ridley.
Okay, so Ridley's pretty much where he should be, is kind of what it looks like. He's pretty much where he should be. Now we'll go to D-Hop because he's sandwiched in between a lot of rookies, which is interesting. So this is why would you rather take the veteran? Would you take him at 39? Roma Dunze or DeAndre Hopkins? Roma Dunze we'll talk about later. Moody.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Hop here.
Ryan.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Josh.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay. Lad McConkey or DeAndre Hopkins? Moody.
Got to go with Hopkins.
Ryan.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Josh.
D-Hop.
Keon Coleman or DeAndre Hopkins? Moody. This one's going to be Ryan's little devil because I know he's going to say Keon Coleman.
Sorry, that was good. Got to go with Hop. Hop.
Ryan.
I'm going around early and I'm taking both.
Give Ryan the Macy's coat. He's going.
Wow.
If they're both on the board, it's Keon Coleman. Every time. Twice on Sundays.
Oh, my goodness.
3 times
Listen,
at Macy's.
I want Keon Coleman on my team just so I have Keon Coleman on my team.
100%. That's where my life is. Marlia has fallen in love with Keon Coleman. If I don't walk out of every draft with Keon Coleman, my wife might leave me at this point.
Wow.
So Ryan's normal answer is DeAndre Hopkins. Josh.
D-Hop.
Okay. D-Hop's 42. Now we'll go 43 and 44. Brian Thomas Jr. or DeAndre Hopkins?
First of all, my goodness, it's DeAndre Hopkins in every rookie.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. He's being drafted really low right now. And then it goes Jackson Smith and Jigba, which could have a conversation there. You could have a conversation there. Deontay Johnson, you can definitely have a conversation
I say that's
there.
the first conversation is Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
Christian
I would
Watson.
take JSN over D-Hop, too.
I'd say that's... I think it's closer than you think.
Yep.
Deontay's a definite conversation. Christian Watson's a conversation if you want to go injury. But then it's Rashee Rice, Jamison Williams, Cortland Sutton might be the next guy.
Rashee Rice has fallen that far. Wow.
Yeah, 47. Yeah. So, again, DeAndre Hopkins is, where he's going, a steal.
Yeah.
That's why I want to bring this up. He has 3 rookies directly ahead of him, then Brian Thomas Jr. flanking his backside.
It'll be interesting to see when we kind of get out of this post-dynasty rookie fever
what
and
happens.
Get into the throes of the summer when DeAndre Hopkins has the name recognition, certainly over Brian Thomas and Ladd McConkey. These aren't guys that the average NFL fan is going to jump in and be like, I need to get Ladd McConkey. So it's going to be interesting to see if these guys all move up together, fall down together, where DeAndre Hopkins ends up when we get into more redraft focused drafting later on in the summer.
Go ahead, Moody.
Something I would add to that. I'm like, you brought up a really good point for those that are watching or listening, is that essentially what you're getting with DeAndre Hopkins is that he's got wide receiver 3 pricing, but he's a solid wide receiver 2. And one thing that kind of struck out to me when you're naming some of these other players is that when you look at Hopkins, I'm like, that's a guy that can easily get 125 or more targets. With some of those rookies and those other players, I'm like, that's not the case with some of those other players. So.
Yeah. Roma Dunze should not approach 90 targets this season. Like, it's crazy to have them in the same conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. We will go through some bets here, and then we'll get to a couple questions in the chat. So top 3 favorites. Ryan, you have Will Levis over 3,450 and a half passing yards. It's minus 115. Again, player props nowadays, folks, not the abundance that it will be.
No, it's actually getting way better.
It's getting better?
And we pulled all of our bets from Eric's ESPN bet, and every quarterback is represented at this point, and we're starting to see a lot more of every other. Like I told you guys, as the summer moves on, these bets are going to get way more interesting. I found one for our last team that I was super thrilled to find. So there's some cool bets now. So,
boom. Josh, you have the Titans to be a wild card team at plus 1,100. Does he believe it? No. Is it really good odds in a shitty, really good odds in a shitty division outside of Jacksonville? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And then Moody, you have the Titans over 6.5 wins. They just need one more. They just need one more than last year. Yep. And by all accounts, they're a whole heck of a lot better than last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's plus money too.
Especially
that's
on their
plus
defense. We've been talking about their offense. We don't do a ton of focus on defense. That team improved greatly on the defensive side of the ball. And you brought up that division, Joe. Obviously, everybody loves CJ Stroud, but that Houston team still has a lot of growing to do. That's a more wide open division than we'd like to think it is.
Yeah, I think Tennessee, if you look at it, is at the bottom right now, but they're not at the bottom by 4 less wins. Yeah. Like 1 less win, maybe. And yes, that defense still anchored by the dog, Jeffrey Simmons, in the middle. Yep. So, that man. Arguably the best defensive tackle in the league now that Aaron Donald is no longer gracing us with his presence in the NFL. All right, questions from the Equinox Fantasy Football. Got Burrow and Josh Allen, but no quarterback 3. Has the 103, was offered the 107 and 203. His RBs are, okay. Someone got to help me here.
Charbonnet and Jalen Warren.
Okay. Okay. I thought he was trying to. Got it. Thank you. Zach Charbonnet and Jalen Warren. Receivers are Zay Flowers, Michael Pittman. Those are the 2 main ones that you should care about. So, what do we think? Do we drop to the 107? Stay at the 103? Because you're assuming. I'm assuming the Superflex. Caleb Williams is gone.
Yeah.
Let's play the game. Jaden Daniels is also gone. Let's say Marvin Harrison doesn't go at 2. Jaden Daniels is gone. Are you okay with May at 3, or do you go back to the 107 and take a guy later? Like a J.J. McCarthy, maybe? Ryan.
I'm not. I don't think he needs to focus on quarterback. You have Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. Your position players are in trouble. Yeah. So in the scenario that you just broke down, Joe, if MHJ is at the 103, I'm not moving out of the 103. I am counting my lucky stars that Marvin Harrison fell there, and I'm taking him. If the first 2 picks are Williams and Harrison, then I take this trade back because that gives me the ability to grab a wide receiver and a running back because Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson are creeping into round 1 now to where personally a lot of people would want to go wide receiver at 107. And to be fair, you might be able to get Malik Neighbors or Roma Dunze at that 107, which I would. But if Neighbors and Odunze both go, you could grab Jonathan Brooks or Trey Benson, whichever one you like best at 7, and still get Keon Coleman at 203. So.
Yeah.
Ryan's all over Keon Coleman.
All over Keon Coleman.
I love that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, Ryan, we just did a rookie draft, and McCarthy and May went a lot earlier than they were going in the beginning of May.
Yep.
When most rookie drafts were going on. So, I mean, you can hang tight at 107, and yeah, maybe Rome Odunze falls. Maybe Malik Neighbors falls, right? If not, you get your choice of Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, Xavier Worthy, whomever of those guys that you want. Or maybe you do want to go the running back route, right? Maybe you want to take Jonathan Brooks. Maybe, 203 comes around and maybe Trey Benson's there.
Well, Josh, we saw
options there.
Josh, I was in that exact position. I needed a running back at 112 or 203, and they both went ahead of me. And that's why I was saying, if you need a running back, which this team clearly does, 107 is not too early for Brooks or Benson in the current climate of these fantasy drafts. I desperately needed a running back, but my first pick was 112. If I would have known, I would have traded up. I did not realize that the value on Brooks and Benson. I thought Brooks maybe could go. I thought I was getting Benson at 12 with the smash pick, and it did not happen. So.
Another one from the Equinox. Playoff contending team. What could you get for a 25 first? I'll get him over the top. And I'd like to bring in the second start question is, what do we think about Garrett Wilson? Because I will say in my league, some dumbass traded me Garrett Wilson for the 110 like a moron. The guy to my left on the screen is the moron that did that. And if you're looking to contend this year, you have to assume Aaron Rodgers is healthy all season, even though I think everyone and their mother outside of Jets fans is praying for his downfall. You have to assume he's healthy. If Aaron Rodgers is healthy, Garrett Wilson's top 10, creeping into top 5. So if you're going all in this year, I think he's a guy that people could be scared on that would want to move him. Especially after next year.
I'll let Moody dive in first because you didn't even give him a chance to answer the last question.
I thought he answered.
No.
I missed him. That's okay. All right.
Hey, bobbing and weaving. But no, anyway, I agreed with the commentary from the last question. I guess for this one, it's like you got to go get Garrett Wilson. Like, to your point, I'm like, this is someone who could finish, as he's definitely a top 10, a lock, definitely top 5 potential. But I look at the targets. Always love the volume. I'm like, this is a guy that can push for 140 or more targets easy. And hey, they added Mike Williams, but I'd be surprised if Mike Williams gets 100 targets. It's going to be the Garrett Wilson show, and he's got Aaron Rodgers. And Rodgers desperately needs to win with this Jets team since last year was like a redshirt year.
Yeah.
So you look at all those different factors. Yeah, I'll go get Wilson if he's available. So that's all I have to say about that. Like,
only other name I'd throw out there is Drake London from that same draft class. I think a 1 could still possibly get someone to budge off of Drake London. If you got to look at the team makeup. It needs to be a team that's trying to rebuild for next year, that's looking for those picks. So attack some of those teams with the younger wide receiver.
We don't know the whole scenario from Tony that brought up what we thought about Garrett Wilson, but he moved Zay Flowers, Brian Thomas in his first next year. He also wanted to hate on Rodgers. He said Zay wasn't starting for him, though, so you have to imagine Brian Thomas was also not starting for him at that point. So going to get Garrett Wilson for 2 bench players in a first seems legit in that situation. Josh?
I mean, that's basically the ideology behind my trade with you, Joe. Like, Garrett Wilson was not starting for me.
No.
He wasn't. I have Jamar Chase. I have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I had Cooper Kupp. Yeah, he's aging. But I also I'm loaded at running back. I have ETN, Bijan, Breece Hall, and Kenneth Walker. Like, there's only so many flex spots in our league. So I'm like, well, why not just reset the rookie clock, so to speak, right? I get somebody who has some upside in Brian Thomas Jr., a future first for 2025, which could turn into God knows what, could be anything. So, and I didn't think that was, I mean, sure, I probably could have gotten more, but I didn't need more.
Well, you clearly could have gotten more from this trade. I'm going to
yeah, I mean, this is basically the exact same trade with Zay Flowers tacked on.
Well, and a 1 next year. I'm going to say that this is a horrible overpay for Garrett Wilson, and I like Garrett Wilson. I'm not giving up this much for Garrett Wilson.
An overpay.
I don't know.
I mean, you got to take context too. Our league is only one quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Our league is 1 quarterback. In a super flex, to me, that is that's too pricey. I would probably.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say it was
one of those guys.
This is so much worse than Superflex.
Yeah.
The quarterbacks are supposed to be terrible next year. So.
Yeah, and that's the other aspect.
Everyone sucks.
So.
I mean, is Garrett Wilson the best part of this trade? Absolutely. And so by that logic alone, you got Garrett Wilson, plus you got 2 roster spots. You probably won the trade for this year if you're looking to win this year. So.
Fair. There you go.
Yeah.
Moving to the South, the Atlanta Falcons. The greatest draft class of this past year, the Atlanta Falcons. Sign a guy to a 4-year deal in the offseason, and you draft his replacement at 108, who will replace him when on his 30th birthday. Not the quarterback who you signed's 30th birthday, but the guy you drafted's 30th birthday. So Arthur was blank in his brain when they decided to make those decisions.
Oh, no, that was
there.
the GM. There was that whole
I know.
Yeah.
Imagine explaining to your boss, hey, here's the dumb decision I made, but let me draw it out for you. Okay. Quarterback 1, maybe Kirk Cousins. Who knows? We don't know. They draft a guy in the first round in the top 10. Quarterback 2, maybe Michael Penix Jr. Quarterback 38 currently. Kirk Cousins going quarterback 18 according to Underdog. Bijan Robinson, excuse me. RB2, pretty good, pretty high. Tyler Algier, presumably, knock on wood, not gonna see anything this year. RB48, we'll see. And I did not mention new head coach Raheem Morris, new offense, Zach Robinson, former Rams passing game coordinator. So it's going to be very similar to the Rams system. Drake London, wide receiver 10. I think that's the highest he's been, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of ADP, by far. Yeah. Darnell Mooney, steep drop, wide receiver 68. But I like that Ryan has him highlighted, because I also love Darnell Mooney. And Rondale Moore, wide receiver 92. Solid weapons for Kirk Cousins to throw to. And not to mention, knock on wood, Kyle Pitts, if they can finally figure out how to use him. He's still the tight end 6. That's crazy after...
It is crazy.
Like, you might as well just pin that to his name, because I feel like that's his ADP every year since his rookie.
Yes, and everyone's hanging on to, but he's going to be good.
That athletic profile.
Listen, you're drafting him at a ceiling at best at this point. So let's dive into it. Moody, you have Drake London, the highest ADP he's ever had. Yeah. I've loved Drake London since he's come out.
To that USC game.
I went to one USC game and I saw that man drop a defensive back on a quick slant. I was like, you did that at 6'4"? Okay, you're gonna be good.
I say he's 6'4", so you know I love him.
Yeah, and USC's track record of receivers as of late has been money. So I love USC receivers. Juju Smith-Schuster withstanding. Drake London, wide receiver 10. He has the best quarterback he's had. He has a really good, presumably very good offensive system.
Yes.
This is the year, right? This has to be the year.
Yeah, I'm like the stage is set for London to have like a breakout season, and I ended up deliberately posting about this on X, about Drake London, with some footage that was tied to it, of catching a pass from Kirk Cousins, and I'm like the stage is set for it. He's a 3rd-year wide receiver. You mentioned the coaching change. You mentioned a lot of stuff I'm going to cover, so I won't dive too deep into it. So you got Arthur Smith, who's out, who's gone. The run-heavy scheme is no more. But you got to think about context is important. Like his first 2 seasons, London, he was limited to, in year 1, like around 72 receptions, a little bit under 900 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. Didn't really improve much the next year. He had like 69 receptions, a little bit over 900 receiving yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. But one thing I love about London, though, love his college tape, love what he's done at the NFL level when utilized. He has been impressive when he's gotten targets, when he has the football in his hands. And one thing that's crazy to me is that he's yet to finish his season better than 40th among wide receivers in routes and only has 14 career end zone targets to his name. You mentioned Zach Robinson.
Good Lord.
That checks out so aggressively for the Falcons. It checks out so well.
I know, right?
Continue.
I'm just like, you got Zach Robinson here. You mentioned, hey, from the Rams. I'm like, he's on board. You got Kirk Cousins under center. I'm like, this is a guy that's entering his physical prime at 23 years old? It's really elite upside here. And what gets me in the mock drafts we've done so far is that, at ESPN, is that people are kind of looking at, I'll close on this, that London is like a wide receiver 2. I think that's how he's being viewed, but you got to think there's room for so much more. So I am in on London this year and really this entire Falcons offense. So I'll stop there.
Are we at all worried wide receiver 10 might be, we're drafting him at a ceiling? Is that at all a worry?
That's my worry, I'm going to say. I mean, the last 2 years, his first 2 years in the league, he's had on the dot 6.88 targets per game. Now, I understand that's very much indicative of Arthur Smith and how he galaxy brains everything to a point where it just mucks everything up. But he also went from a 28% target share his rookie year to a 20% target share last year. And that's a huge drop. But when you look at this system that he's coming into with Zach Robinson, yes, he's a first-time play caller. It's an extension of Sean McVay, an extension of Shanahan. We've seen what Kevin O'Connell has kind of done in Minnesota with Justin Jefferson. We all like Darnell Mooney. We think he's a very skilled guy, but he's not the type of target share earner that someone like a Drake London can be. How many targets do we realistically think that Drake London can see? Like, what kind of percentage? Kirk Cousins has never had an issue throwing over 600 times. You give this guy a 25% target share, you could be sitting over 150 targets.
Well, you hit that on the nose that Kirk Cousins also doesn't have a problem throwing to one guy over and over again, nor does this offense have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Ryan, I'll flip it to you because you have Mooney. I almost said Moody. It's very close.
Exactly.
You have Mooney highlighted, and wide receiver 68. We've loved him since he come out, and we're in literally he's free territory.
Well, this is a guy who only 26 years old. He'll turn 27 during the season. We've seen him play very fast on the field. We've seen 1,000-yard season out of him on a very bad Chicago Bears offense. And as much as I agree with both of these guys, Drake London, that guy, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but there's still a lot of passing attempts to go around. And this is an offense that Zach Robinson wasn't necessarily running the offense when we saw Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods. We've seen multiple wide receivers, Cooper Kupp. Now Zach Robinson, well, no, he was there last year. So Zach Robinson knows Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. There's always been an and in the Rams offense. And it's not a situation where, like, when we were talking about the Titans, I had to say Will Levis isn't Joe Burrow. Kirk Cousins is Matt Stafford. I'm A-okay with that offense being translated into Kirk Cousins' hands. And it's going to work out really well for Drake London. It's likely to work out really well for Kyle Pitts. But one of these two wide receivers, Mooney or Moore, is going to do well. They're both completely free. I've just seen a lot more out of Mooney that had us salivating 2 years ago. And now, no offense to Justin Fields, he's with a real quarterback. So I'm interested to see where it could end up.
Anybody else?
You're going to see a lot more 11 personnel with this team. And that obviously is going to open up a lot of room for Darnell Mooney. Mm-hmm. I'm really curious to see if they end up targeting Kyle Pitts more like as a receiver. Because, I mean, we've seen high target volumes for Tyler Higbee out in Los Angeles, right? Like, they're not afraid to throw to the tight end.
Not at all.
Mm-hmm. They've also had 3 wide receivers be really good. We've had 2 wide receivers in this system be really good. Jordan Addison had over 100 targets last year, I believe. Justin Jefferson averaged 10 targets a game in only playing 10 games. So, like, there's plenty of room to throw around if that's what they want to do is throw the football. I mean, we've seen all the talk that, Bijan is going to be used like CMC, right? Well, if that happens, what's his target share look like? He had almost a 17% target share last year. So, like, it's going to be really interesting, the distribution of targets. Like, do they keep it centralized on Pitts, on London, on Bijan? Or does Darnell Mooney actually start earning some of these targets as, like, the free agent acquisition that comes in that the new offensive coordinator wants to actually get involved?
To your point with Tyler Higbee, it was 2 years ago, 2022, where he had that big year. And while he was a extreme disappointment, I hate to even bring his name up, but Allen Robinson still was seeing, 5 to 7 targets per game. He didn't do anything with them. That was a very, very bad year and not the example I want to throw out when I'm trying to talk up Darnell Mooney. But even the year before that, where Tyler Higbee first started to emerge, We saw, I think it was Van Jefferson almost have 90 targets that season. You're hoping that Mooney's going to do more with these targets, but I think 90 to even 100 targets, depending on Bijan's involvement, it's within the realm.
Well, going to Bijan, RB2 in underdog ADP, and according to Gator, RB2 on the Falcons again this year, which, hey, what? Who says no? Who says no when you think about it, right? Who says no?
Me.
That guy. Josh Bijan, you were high on him coming out. I mean, who wasn't, in all honesty?
Yeah, Josh.
Yeah, right.
But like,
you really found.
I was the only one that was high on Bijan, guys.
You
But he
dug
was-
deep and found this rare gem in the draft.
but
Bijan
he was aggressively high on Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, I think I had him as my RB3 as a rookie.
Yes,
honestly.
you were
I think I took him,
insanely high.
I think I took him highest in Scott Fishbowl of anyone last year.
Yeah, you were insanely high on him. He's presumably going to not have any competition in that backfield. So
Well, I mean, if you look at that, like he had a 41% rush share last year. Like you spend an 8th overall pick on a running back in 2023 when running backs are like so devalued that we're screaming that, oh my God, CMC's making $19 million a year when bum ass wide receiver 3s are pulling $15 million a year. Like, really? And you only give him a 41% rush share. Like, that's unfathomable to me. But through all of that, he still averaged 4.6 yards per carry and damn near hit 1,000 yards. Only had 4 rushing touchdowns. Not great. But then you look back at his last 2 years in college, he had 29 combined rushing touchdowns. There's plenty of touchdown upside. So even if they only use him as like an 80% of Christian McCaffrey, he's going to ball out in this offense this year. Mm-hmm. Tyler Algier, great story. 5th-round pick, comes in, has 1,000 yards. We saw the same thing with Jordan Howard. He fell off the map really quickly. Tyler Algier, it was nice knowing you. That's really all I have to say about that. But to me, he of any running back has the greatest opportunity to surpass and dethrone Christian McCaffrey as the RB1 in fantasy this year.
Yes, I gotta chime in on this because it's ironic because originally my plan was to highlight Bijan Robinson, but I noticed that you got to him before, and I was like, that's fine.
You could have doubled it. I would have ceded to you and picked somebody else, Moody.
No, I'm just like, I knew I would have a chance to chime in because I love Drake London, so I would definitely take the opportunity. But I think everything that you mentioned about Bijan is spot on. I love that you mentioned like Christian McCaffrey. Like I don't know if you would call this like a bold take or anything like that, but I could see Bijan Robinson finishing the season with more targets than Christian McCaffrey like this year. Like he could easily have like 85 or more targets, which makes it really fascinating. Because I was thinking back to last year, like with his excellent receiving production. Like this is a running back who was top 5 amongst running backs in routes, targets, yards, and touchdowns. Then you just think about all these factors we've talked about, having Kirk Cousins under center, new coaching staff, just fresher perspective. I'm like, he could easily finish as a top 3 fantasy running back. And would it surprise anyone here if he did finish as the RB1 this year? Just putting that out there.
I don't think it would. I mean, and it's not unfathomable to say that. He had more targets last year than Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
It's interesting. The one guy ahead of him is obviously Christian McCaffrey in running back rankings. Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
I mean, CMC's earned it. Like, I mean, you're not going to take that away from him.
I'm just glad nobody's drafting Justin Jefferson over Christian McCaffrey this year.
So think about this. Like you mentioned with the ADP, I don't want to go stay too long on this, but it's like, okay, so CMC number 1, right? I'm just thinking about ESPN's with our ADP. So I think CMC is number 1. I want to say at number 2, you may have like either Breece Hall or like CeeDee Lamb. But I think Bijan's like at 4 or like at 5. So you just got to think people, casual drafters, right? Like if you've got like the 104, the 105, and like Bijan is sitting there.
Fastest pick ever.
I'm like, you got to pull the trigger there, right, guys?
I'm pretty sure I drafted him last year at the 105. So Yeah, I'm definitely pulling it this year.
Yeah. No, yeah. What Moody is explaining has been my experience. I just did a best ball draft today where CeeDee Lamb was the first pick, and I totally get it. Ahead of Christian McCaffrey. Yep, absolutely. There are people who are just super bought in.
Look, I don't hate CeeDee Lamb. I love CeeDee Lamb. I now have to hate CeeDee Lamb because people are idiotically taking
this is what happens every
McCaffrey.
year.
Crazy.
The wide receiver the year before, they want to take them over Christian McCaffrey, plain and simple, over the RB1. And every year it seemingly comes back to bite you. So maybe stop doing it.
Correct.
Because it's typically a new wide receiver one every year.
Every year, exactly.
How about a new wide receiver or running back? There's been no RB1 repeat since the Vietnam War. So if you want to...
But McCaffrey always belongs there.
Yes, McCaffrey always belongs there.
Yeah.
But if you want to buy into Bijan, he wasn't the RB1 last year.
Fair.
He was barely an RB1 period last year.
Correct. Correct.
I just have fun in Pittsburgh, Arthur Smith.
Jalen Warren, baby. So this has nothing to do with Devon Achane is RB7. Really? That kind of feels aggressive.
Well, it's definitely aggressive, but you look at his efficiency metrics.
I was gonna say a lot of drafts right now are best ball, and he is a perfect ball runner.
I just sat there. I'm like, that's a little aggressive.
Yeah.
Moving into bets, Kirk Cousins to lead the NFL in passing yards, says Ryan Weisse. Plus 1,300. Those are pretty good odds.
It's excellent odds. Kirk Cousins would have led the NFL in passing.
So he was on track, right?
Yeah. The number one quarterback in the NFL last year, Tua Tagovailoa, 46-24. In 8 games, Kirk Cousins, first of all, was the 24th most passing yards, 23-31. Would have had 46-62 in 16 games. He could have skipped game 17 and still led the NFL in passing.
Wait, Tua led the NFL in passing yards last year?
46-24.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the dumbest stat ever known to mankind. Kirk Cousins easily breaks that.
So again, you don't know that it's always going to be this number, but for those odds for a guy who could have done it last year healthy, it's worth a couple bucks. Obviously, you want to hear more about his health, but those odds are going to go down as the news about his health goes up. So
$10 to win 130? Why not? Josh, you have Kirk Cousins over 27.5 passing touchdowns. It's plus 110 on ESPN Bet. As Ryan said, if he's healthy, that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I just found it really interesting that was the only prop of this category that was plus money. Everything else was, like minus 100, minus 110, whatever, either the over or the under. This was the only one plus money. Excluding last year, which I'm fairly certain that he probably hits that mark last year, he's only missed that mark once since 2018. So, this would have been easily... he clears 28 easy. He's got all the weapons in Atlanta set up to be able to do this. There's no reason not to take the over on that.
7-10 last year. Moody has him over 9.5 wins this year, minus 145.
Yeah, you got Kirk Cousins in town, taking over the reins, quarterback. I think you look at this Atlanta team, I would say they're really hungry. They actually have a reliable quarterback that can, we're hoping, right? They can maximize the talents of Drake London. We talked about Kyle Pitts. And one thing about Cousins, he's averaged 271 passing yards per game during these last 3 seasons with the Vikings. You got Raheem Morris that's there. They beefed up the defense during the draft. Things are really looking up for this team. And just to kind of put a bow on it, you factor in one of the league's easiest schedules. And it's really clear to me that this Falcons team, I think it's really positioned to exceed expectations this year. So love over 9.5 wins.
The good news is they only have 2 Monday night games. So, it's 15-2 right there, right?
Do they have a Sunday night game? It's true. Moving to our final team, the Windy City, the Chicago Bears, another 7-10 team. Same coach, Matt Eberflus. New offense, Shane Waldron, the former Seahawks offensive coordinator since 2021. Projected starting offense. Obviously, Caleb Williams. He's going quarterback 11 currently in underdog ADP. DeAndre Swift, RB22. Khalil Herbert, 56. Roschon Johnson right behind him at 58. It's DeAndre Swift's backfield until he maybe gets hurt. And that's what he seems to like to do in the NFC North, is not play games.
He stayed healthy
in the NFC
last
North.
year.
He did, but when he's played in the NFC North, he has not stayed healthy. So, wide receiver 1, DJ Moore, currently wide receiver 21. Wide receiver 2, Keenan Allen, crazily wide receiver 31 in underdog ADP. Roma Dunze going 39. I don't know any trio of receivers going inside the top 40 in ADP right now. This could turn out to be the best receiving room in the NFL. It is pretty damn good. Cole Kmet, tight end 16, and Gerald Everett, tight end 43. Moody, we're going to start with DJ Moore. A lot of hype last year, coming in with Justin Fields, coming over in the massive trade that they got him from.
Yeah.
21 feels low. I don't know if you think it's maybe high because of the amount of competition he now has around him in terms of Swift maybe stealing targets, or Keenan Allen or Roma Dunze stealing targets. Do you like DJ Moore where he is, or do you feel he's undervalued and is going to very much outplay wide receiver 21?
Yeah, one thing about Moore, I do like where he's at right now. I know Keenan Allen's there, but I do see both of those players, I would say, accumulating a similar number of targets. I can see them both getting 120 or more targets, but I'm still looking at Moore as more like the 1A and Keenan Allen as the 1B. I'm like, his season that he had last year was phenomenal. Best fantasy season of his career. Like, he had career highs in receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns. Now, It did help that he saw 15 end zone targets. I think good enough for like the 6th most at the position. But even with splitting targets with Keenan Allen and, with the rookie, and you've got you got a rookie QB and, Caleb Williams there as well. I still think that Moore, I think the ceiling is like a little bit inside like the top 10. But when you look at the ranking, I think people are viewing him as like, with the wide receiver 19 or 20. I just think that his upside is a lot higher, especially considering the people that he's playing with, which I think opens things up even more because you have to account for Keenan Allen and these other playmakers that they have. So I really like DJ Moore. It's not necessarily like a sexy pick in drafts, but if he's there, I find myself gravitating towards him and taking him.
Before we slide over to the other receiver, this is a good would you rather with DJ Moore. And we can also play it with the Keenan Allen side of things as well. Moore currently wide receiver 21. I will add Malik Neighbors, since our show last week, has dropped 2 spots in ADP from 18 to 20, so he is slowly moving down, but we will still include him in this conversation. Let's start with, I'll even go all the way up to 18, where Neighbors got bumped from. Would you rather Stephon Diggs or DJ Moore? Moody.
Yeah, I'm going to go with DJ Moore here.
Ryan. Josh.
Moore
all the way across the board. Devonta Smith or DJ Moore? Moody.
Yeah, I would still go with DJ Moore here.
Ryan.
DJ Moore.
Josh.
Devonta Smith, you said? Yeah,
Devonta Smith. DJ Moore. Malik Neighbors or DJ Moore? Nobody's taking Malik Neighbors, right? Let's just get that one out of the way. Fantastic. No. Everyone's shaking their head. Now it goes beneath DJ Moore. DK Metcalf or DJ Moore? Moody.
Yeah, I'm still going to go with. Tell you what, I would go with Metcalf here.
Okay.
I would go with Metcalf here.
Okay.
I was about to say Moore, but I got my reason.
That's spicy. I like it. I have Metcalf as my wide receiver 14, and DJ Moore is my wide receiver 10. So I like it.
Okay. So I know Ryan's going DJ Moore, so we have two on one there, and then we'll end it. We'll end it with 2 more. DJ Moore or Michael Pittman? Moody.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pittman here.
Okay, Ryan.
DJ Moore.
Josh.
I
DJ
am
Moore
shook.
by a lot.
I respect the hell out of Moody, so has me thinking I am very, very wrong right now because I
just don't think Anthony Richardson's gonna throw.
That's my biggest concern. I am
Yeah.
so down on that Colts offense passing wise.
Well, I'll add this. I know we're not diving too deep here, but my mind works in terms of like targets and volume.
Okay.
So when I think about Metcalf, I'm thinking it's going to be more targets there. Not dramatically more, but when we mentioned, no pun intended, but when I mentioned like Michael Pittman, I'm like, that's someone I could see who's easily getting like 140 to 145.
And we saw it last year. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, so that's
okay.
what
I have Pittman as a 28% target share in my projection.
Yeah.
But that's still only 134 targets because I just don't think that offense is going to throw that much.
So the last one, DJ Moore or Cooper Kupp? Moody.
You know what? It kind of hurt. It pains me to say this. I'm going DJ Moore because I like Kupp.
Ryan.
Moore's my wide receiver 12. I figured I would take him every time here. It's Moore.
Josh.
It's Moore. I do love me some Kupp, though. I think he's due.
I mean, he's an insane value where he is. That's all we're going to talk about that entire Ram show.
Yeah.
Insane value where he currently is. Then you're getting into guys like Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, T. Higgins. It's not even a conversation at that point. So DJ Moore, presumably, like, there's guys ahead of him where you're like, really? We're really considering, Malik Neighbors, Stephon Diggs, Devonta Smith. So Moore has very good value where he's at. And we'll flip to the Keenan Allen side. And before Ryan dives in and just, salivates like we love doing for Keenan Allen, still insane. This man is disrespected. How he is the doggiest of dogs. Wide receiver 3 last year, now wide receiver 31. Lick a nut. Lick a nut, world. Seriously? What are we doing? Keenan Allen, wide receiver 31. I will say there are some names around him that, fine, I can respect it. But here we go. George Pickens or Keenan Allen? Moody.
Sorry, I'm still laughing at that.
Welcome.
I would go with Pickens here. Pickens.
Ryan.
I would also go with George Pickens. I think there's obscene value there as well. So
that's crazy because 2 weeks ago nobody wanted George Pickens of this show except me.
2 months ago, I got really low on George Pickens, and I have recovered.
Thank God. Josh.
I really want to say Keenan Allen. My rankings say George Pickens, and I already feel like I need to lower George Pickens because I don't like it.
I know I need to say Pickens, but if the decision was me on the board, I'm taking Keenan Allen.
Same.
Every single time. Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen? Moody.
I'll still go with Amari Cooper here.
Ryan.
I have them right next to each other, but I would go with Keenan Allen.
Josh.
I too have them right next to each other. I'm going to say Keenan Allen, though, because if you're telling me I get 17 games of Deshaun Watson, I don't want Amari Cooper.
Correct. Yeah. Accurate.
That's the answer right there.
Is Joe Flacco coming back?
Yeah,
right?
If you could guarantee me Flacco was playing half the season, I love Amari Cooper.
Cooper all day.
Here's one to me where it's easy. Christian Kirk or Keenan Allen? Moody.
I would go Keenan Allen here.
Wow. Ryan.
It's not that easy, but it's Keenan Allen for me.
Josh.
Yeah. It is that easzy. Christian Kirk.
Yeah, I was going to say Christian Kirk for me, too. I'm also a Kirk slut. I love Christian Kirk. Wow, I thought it'd be closer. Okay. And then we jump down below him. Terry McLaurin or Keenan Allen? Moody.
Yeah, I would go with Keenan Allen here.
Ryan.
I'm impressed with the ADP. It's Keenan Allen for me as well, though.
Josh.
I do have McLaurin ranked higher, so I'll side there.
Okay. Keenan Allen or Hollywood Brown? Moody.
Well, I want to say Hollywood Brown, but I got to go with Keenan Allen here. A lot of mouths to feed in KC.
Yeah. Ryan.
I need to learn so much more. I'm not touching a KC wide receiver just yet. It's Keenan Allen for me.
Josh.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't want anything to do with the KC wide receivers yet. August might change my mind, but right now, give me Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
Then it goes to Jaden Reed at 34, which you're either boomer high on Jaden Reed or
such a heartbreaking decision for me, but
so
I have Jaden Reed as my wide receiver 15 right now.
Yeah, so you're either through the roof or you seem to be Moody, where you're just kind of like, all right, everybody chill, let's calm down for a little bit. So Keenan Allen seems to be going in a good spot then.
I agree. I was going to say, this isn't about the disrespect. It is insane that this man was the wide receiver 8 last year.
I thought it was wide receiver 3.
Points per game.
Points per game.
Yep.
That's
wide receiver 8 in fantasy and falls all the way to 31. But I get it. The thing people need to be very cautious of, and I was guilty of this for a little while, is don't go to this Chicago team with your priors. This isn't Justin Fields. This isn't Luke Getsy. This is the Seattle offense, which we have seen prop up multiple wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
If Keenan Allen is the Tyler Lockett, if with a better quarterback, if Keenan Allen is the Tyler Lockett of this offense, Tyler Lockett has been a value for as long as fantasy football has existed, seemingly. So hold on to that same energy with Keenan Allen. Where he's going, I have him at 28 right now. So where he's going is fair. I would take him around ahead of where he's going right now. I don't want to see him get much higher because I don't want to pay for him. But man, if he gets lower, I'll take that value.
Then you don't love him that much, Ryan.
I didn't say I wouldn't pay for him. I said I don't want to pay for him. Just like my kid. I'll do it. I don't want to.
Look, guys, all I know is there's a good chance with my draft strategy.
Oh my God. I am going to have Keenan Allen and Jaden Reed in every draft that I'm not in with you, Joe.
Listen, there's a good chance I walk away with a top 5 RB. I'm on the wrap for a Josh Jacobs or a James Cook. Then throw in Kenneth Walker in there. And then I can still get DJ Moore as my wide receiver.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point as well.
And then fuck it. Keenan Allen and Jaden Reed.
Of these two, the DJ Moore disrespect is, I want to go all the way back to DJ
insane.
Moore disrespect is ridiculous. We are scared off by Keenan Allen, but DJ Moore had 136 targets last year and finished as the wide receiver 6. DK Metcalf had 139 targets last year, and that should be the role DJ Moore is playing in this offense. Those targets aren't going anywhere, and he is likely to score more touchdowns. DJ Moore is a top 10 wide receiver.
DJ Moore's a better route runner. The only thing DJ Moore doesn't have is 6'4", 225 pounds. Yeah. That's all that DJ Moore doesn't have over DK Metcalf. So
DJ Moore is insane value where he is right now at 21.
Agreed.
I'll take DJ Moore 2 rounds ahead of where he's going right now if I had to. But I don't. I'll take him 1 round and win.
And great actor in their schedule release video. I believe the Ferris Bueller's Day Off spoof, which is very good. Now, could they be scared off because of Caleb Williams, Josh? He's quarterback 11 currently in ADP. This is an interesting one that we will end the Would You Rathers on, but I'll let you start with a pitch because you love Caleb Williams.
I do. Just looking at the top 10 rookie passing yard seasons of all time, these were the numbers that I found really interesting. Every single one of them threw for over 3,700 yards. Only one threw for more than 30 passing touchdowns, and that was Justin Herbert in 2020. Only one of them threw less than 20 touchdowns, Carson Wentz in 2016. 2 of them threw less than 500 passing attempts.
I'm lost.
CJ Stroud last year, Baker Mayfield in 2018. But 2 of them threw for more than 600.
You have said too much. What is happening?
Oh, it gets even better. Now, let's
is he good or is he not?
Let's look at the top 3 targets on each of their respective teams. No, this is like a who's name of like what in God's name were these people throwing to that they generated these types of yards. Andrew Luck threw to Reggie Wayne at 195 targets, Donnie Avery and T.Y. Hilton. I'll pick out a couple more just so I don't bore you, Joe. Cam Newton in 2011, Steve Smith, Greg Olson, Legadoo Nene.
That dude was a dog. Get out of here.
Okay. Jameis Winston in 2015, Mike Evans, Charles Sims at 70 targets, and Vincent Jackson at 62.
Oh,
Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Antonio Callaway. Carson Wentz, Jordan Matthews, Zach Ertz, and Dorial Green Beckham. Not a single one of these quarterbacks has top 3 weapons like DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze. That is the point. He's going to set a rookie record this year.
I'll add one more thing, though. You got to think about history here, too. The Bears have not had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards.
And he's breaking that this year.
In a single season. I don't think it's going to change. I think
the way that this offense is built, that Shane Waldron is not running the football the same way that typical Bears teams do. Like you can't sit here and tell me that you get these 3 wide receivers and say, you know what, we want to run the football 500 times this year. I just don't see that as a possibility. I don't.
Yeah, I don't see them obviously running it like 500 times. If they got Swift, they got Herbert, they've got Roschon. Trying to get the name out there. So I'm like, I'll try to be brief. I'm like, you got Swift, he'll have 184 rushing attempts. Herbert, they have 110 maybe. Roschon, they have like 75 or 80. But I don't think you should discount like Caleb Williams like rushing ability too. I mean, he can easily have anywhere from like 50 to 70 like rushing attempts and accumulate some rushing yards. I just don't see him passing for 4,000 yards. Also, don't see him getting over 30 touchdowns either. Like, I think the passing game is going to be very top heavy, I would say, with Moore and Allen. I just don't see Williams necessarily lighting it up He's a rookie. He could struggle like early on, pick it up in the middle of the season, and kind of carry that momentum towards the end. But I like him as a prospect and as a player, but I just don't see it happening this year, my man.
The 3 years that Shane Waldron called plays in Seattle, the most rushing attempts he had was in 2022 at 425.
Oh, I think we're gonna say quarterback rushing attempts.
No,
I was gonna say quarterback rushing attempts. I was like, that's
yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying overall, like he does not run the football that much at all. Like that, those are bottom 8
Caleb
numbers.
Williams don't care about that.
Well, Caleb Williams doesn't. Sure, Caleb Williams will run. Like I don't look at him as like, oh, I'm gonna take off like 100 times. Like he's not gonna scramble like that.
Yeah.
But if you tell me that he has 60 carries in a season, I can live with that. That's fine.
Yeah. That's what I think he's gonna.
Because 45 of those are probably scrambles, if not more.
Oh yes, more of them. Okay, we're gonna end on this would you because I love that Moody's on the complete opposite side. So this is gonna be great. I'm gonna love that side. So Caleb Williams, quarterback 11. 9 is Dak Prescott. Moody, Prescott or Caleb Williams?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Prescott here. Yeah.
Ryan.
Dak Prescott.
Josh.
Dak Prescott.
Okay.
Look, I like Caleb Williams. I don't like him that much.
Jordan Love or Caleb Williams? Moody.
We all saw what Jordan Love did last year. Love.
Ryan.
Jordan Love.
Josh.
Jordan Love.
Okay. I am going to skip Jaden Daniels. I feel like that is definitely a rookie getting bumped up pretty high here at quarterback 12.
Yeah.
So I'm going to skip him. Brock Purdy or Caleb Williams? Moody.
Yeah, you got to go with Brock Purdy.
Ryan.
Caleb Williams.
I already know Josh's answer. I'm not even going to ask it. Caleb Williams or Trevor Lawrence? Moody.
I would go with Caleb Williams here.
Ryan.
Caleb Williams.
Josh.
Caleb Williams.
After what his ass burned most people last year, yeah, that's fair. I'm going to pick out a couple randos here. Caleb Williams or Kirk Cousins? Moody. Cousins is 18.
Yeah, that's tougher than some people may think, but I would end up going with Cousins here. Got to look at the body of work.
Ryan.
I'm going to look at cost. If I can wait and get Kirk Cousins, I'm going to take Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Josh.
Caleb Williams offers more rushing upside. Give me Caleb Williams.
Okay, I'm gonna
because Kirk Cousins can't run anymore.
Yeah.
He couldn't run before, but that's my point.
I'm gonna jump up to quarterback 6. Anthony Richardson or Caleb Williams? Moody.
Oh, I'm about to. I gotta get out of here. Yeah.
I think that's a legitimate question for a lot of people.
Anthony Richardson is way too high right now, personally.
I think that's a legitimate question for a lot of people.
Oh, it 100% is.
Wow. Okay. Well,
you're A-Rich all the way.
Yeah. You got to go with Anthony Richardson here, at least in my opinion. So
Ryan.
I am going to go down this year as the Anthony Richardson hater of haters. Caleb Williams for me.
Moody, if he goes down as a hater of hater, he's always wrong. So you are dead right this year.
Anthony Richardson to the moon because
yes.
I am so with every fiber of my being. I just do not think this guy is going. He's going to have 4 great games. I don't know that it's going to be a body of work that is going to do it.
Okay. Josh.
I'm Caleb Williams all the way. If we're discounting Jaden Daniels because we're propping him up because of rushing upside, how are we looking at AR? Because he's the same way. He played 3 games last year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to end it on this last one because I think this is interesting. Coming off injury, we obviously know what he can do when he's healthy. Aaron Rodgers is quarterback 20. Caleb Williams or Aaron Rodgers? Moody.
Yeah, I would go with Aaron Rodgers.
Ryan.
Moody, you make me feel like an idiot. It's Caleb Williams.
Josh.
Caleb Williams. I want nothing to do with Rodgers.
This is why I asked this question because there's a lot of people, I guarantee you, that are saying Aaron Rodgers perennially is top 10.
Let's be clear. One of this group works for ESPN, so there's a good chance I'm wrong.
But here's the thing. It's funny because he was so on the side of AR and you guys weren't. He was so on the side of Aaron Rodgers.
What I'm saying.
Because it is truly a debate. Like there's people
it's a debate. It's one of my favorite things about the show is we get such smart people that make me go back and look at my stuff because I'm like, I'm probably very wrong if Eric Moody's saying Aaron Rodgers is not in the same sentence as Caleb Williams to me, and I'm not worried about body of work. I'm not worried about the fact that I hate the person as a person. I'm just talking about I don't trust him. So.
It's just going to be it's going to be some ups and downs. It's like, but I think a lot of people.
Yeah, the downs are every time he opens his mouth.
Like, you just got a lot of managers that are looking back. They're just like, okay, hey, we saw what C.J. Stroud did last year, and they're looking at Caleb Williams, and they may expect like similar production. But I think it's going to be
so fair.
It's going to be some turbulence, and you got a guy like Rodgers. It's just like, I know, regardless of what you think of Rodgers, like off the field, I'm like, I think he's going to have like a chip on his shoulder. He's going to have a lot to prove because I'm like, first series he went down last year, for the Jets, derailed their season. So I think you're going to see, really a motivated and fired up Aaron Rodgers. Who would it surprise any of us here that Rodgers finishes as like a low end QB1? Just looking at
yes,
it
would
and that's why I asked that question.
It would surprise me greatly.
I'm like, you just gotta go with Rodgers, and I'm like, he's available. And with these mock drafts we're doing,
he's free.
In
one QB mock drafts,
yeah. The ones we're doing right now, they're like 10 team. They're not like 12 or 14, but it's just like he's just available, sitting there waiting, late. He's a boring pick, but it's just like you gotta go with Rodgers.
If you're gonna take Anthony Richardson early, you might as well grab Rodgers because you're only getting.
Well, and that's exactly my point. Like if you're picking these guys at ADP, like if you're taking Richardson at QB6, if you're taking Jaden Daniels at QB12, and I'll be honest with you, I think you can even throw Caleb Williams into that situation because these are all unknown guys. They have no body of work in the NFL.
Yeah.
Take these guys where their ADP is and say, you know what, I need somebody behind him just in case these guys flame out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the same thing we would do with Justin Fields because we didn't know what we were getting from a passing perspective, but we knew what we were getting from a rushing standpoint. But you take that backup quarterback as a safety blanket. I don't love doing that because in 10-team leagues especially, quarterbacks are always available on waivers. But if you're in these like 12 or 14-team leagues, that to me is a perfectly sound strategy.
Yeah, 100%. Another crazy kind of combo like that, to your point, Josh, is let's say if you end up picking up like Aaron Rodgers, and say if you picked up like Justin Herbert too, depends on the league size.
Yeah,
I'm just like, those are two guys that are like readily available. I kind of was playing around and did that like in an ESPN 10-team league for where I took Rodgers late. I saw Justin Herbert was there. I was like, hey, as a contingency plan, why not I just add on Justin Herbert and just see what happens, right?
Yeah.
So
that's very fair.
Ending on bets, Caleb Williams over 3,450.5 passing yards. That's the second time we've seen that number, and Ryan's going over.
Yeah,
minus 115.
ESPN bet leaned on that for a lot of quarterbacks, and I'll be honest, all sports books, ESPN bet included, I think are really low on quarterback yardage right now.
Okay. Roma Dunze to lead all rookies in regular season receiving yards. That's plus 1,200 from Josh.
I like it because, again, you're looking at a 32-year-old Keenan Allen who's missed quite a few games over the last 2 seasons, only played 23 out of 32. Let's say, hypothetically, age happens again. He misses some time. The wide receiver 2 in this Shane Waldron offense can see a lot of targets, can see a lot of yards. There's opportunity there. That's kind of what I'm getting at. And at plus 1,200, I think that is damn good odds.
God, I hope that doesn't hit for you. Just off the analysis, I hope that doesn't hit for you.
Well, luckily I live in Florida and I can't place this bet, so there's that.
Good. You deserve that. You deserve that.
Oh, man.
And then Moody has the Bears over 8.5 wins, which they sat last year at 7-10, so they just need 2 more, and they are favored on that. ESPN likes them on the over.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I know we're going over a little bit, but hey, we're having a good time. So I just think the Bears could have a tough start to the season, and it's not just because of their opponents, I would say. Like, I think it'll be a slow start for Caleb Williams. You look at guys like Cam Newton, his rookie year, Joe Burrow. Those are guys that started like 0-2. But I think we're kind of, again, mesmerized by C.J. Stroud and like Andrew Luck. I think they began 1-2 before making the playoffs. So slow start for Williams. I think the Bears will hit their kind of stride in the middle of the season, go on a run. There's some winnable games like on the schedule. I know they will face the Rams, I believe, who struggled like in early like road games. They got the Lions, I think on Thanksgiving, if my memory serves me right. They're kind of on a losing streak on Thanksgiving. So I think things could fall the Bears' way, but I love them over 8.5 wins. So I can see them kind of getting to 10 wins this year.
I got a bonus bet for you, Joe, and I know you're going to laugh at this one.
I'm sure I am.
The Bears plus 3,500
to win the Super Bowl.
They have, among NFC teams, they have the 7th best odds, which I found insanely interesting.
That means they're a playoff team.
That's what I'm saying. That, like, Look, it's stupid. It's stupid money. It's a waste of money. The Bears haven't won anything in 30 years, 40 years almost. There's hope. There's a lot of buzz in the city. It would not surprise me if this team falls flat on their face and only wins 5 games. But it also wouldn't be surprised if they win 13 games. I mean, the way this offense is set, if Caleb Williams is what everybody expects Caleb Williams to be, it could happen. That's all I'm going to say.
They do see Green Bay and Detroit twice a year. They are not in an easy division.
Very well aware of that.
So, interesting. Okay. Well, Moody, thanks for coming on, man. Year after year. Here joining us, talking all this fun stuff. Remind everyone where they can find you and all your work.
Yeah, no, but first of all, thanks for the invite. Hey, this is fun, good dialogue. But I just encourage everyone to check me out on social media. If you're on X, or if you still call it Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, at Eric N. Moody. So I wear a lot of hats at ESPN. I write about the NFL, NBA, and WNBA from a fantasy and sports betting perspective. So if you like all those things, and you also like a little bit of 1980s, 1990s, like pop culture and other things, you'll be right at home. So stop what you're doing. Go follow me now. And I do engage, with everyone. Got a lot of content, fantasy football related content coming up this summer. So, gentlemen, hey, it's been a pleasure. Until next time. And hit me up in the DMs. Just don't hit me up, a year later saying, hey, Moody, I need you to come
get
on.
His ass on soon.
Joe. No,
hey, that's on Josh. He's the scheduler. I do have to say, if you're not playing WNBA fantasy basketball, it's actually a fun time. I am playing it currently.
It is fun.
Yeah, I got my girl Brianna Stewart just dropped 60 points last night. It's a great, not 60 points on the scoreboard, 60 points in fantasy. That'd be insane if she dropped a 60 burger in real life.
Well, so yes.
Yeah, B Stu, Jackie Adams, Cameron Brink, Queen, Kate Martin. I picked up off the waiver wire. Why not? You don't know these names? Go look at Eric Moody's. Go look at Eric Moody, see what he's writing. And then it says kick to Josh to talk about other things we have.
Yeah, a lot of great stuff in the pipeline. Obviously, this is our annual A Look Inside team preview series. Articles hitting the website every single week. Tyjae Spears dropped Monday. Kyle Pitts today. We have an article on Keenan Allen coming out on Friday. 3 new teams next week. Speaking of next week, next Wednesday's show, we are going to be on at the special time of 8:30 p.m. Eastern, covering the Jets, Vikings, and Broncos with the one and only Howard Bender from Fantasy Alarm. We always have to.
We didn't have to move. We didn't have to move the time for him.
Yeah, that Sirius XM show gets in the way.
We didn't have to. Tell him to skip it.
That's all good. But anyway, but we do have a brand new show starting tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern. We're super excited about this. It's our Women of Fantasy Football Mock Girl Summer with Wendy Early and the new member of the Football Guys, Ryan, Miss Julia Papworth, is the co-host of that show. Their guest, one and only Kelly Singh from here at Club Fantasy and Women of Fantasy Football. Of course, we have Mock It Like It's Hot every Saturday, Dynasty After Party Sunday mornings at 11 a.m., Mocking with the Stars, Gator J, Chris Battisal Monday night at 10 p.m., Masterclass with Gator J. Stacy will be missing Tuesday at 8:30, but Jay will have another substitute teacher. And, of course, Kelly, the aforementioned Who's Your Caddy, our golf DFS show, Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern. A lot of stuff here at Club Fantasy. So hit that like, hit that subscribe. Show us a lot of support. We're on our way to 2,000 subs now since we just crossed 1,000. So let's get it, baby.
Well, and it only took Josh 3 minutes to do the outro. So if he ever yells at me for doing anything long, I'm going to throw that back in his face. For Josh, Moody, Ryan, myself, you can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. Always remember, defense wins championships, offense wins fantasy football. We will see you next